Welcome to Causing the Effect, a podcast focused on the exploration of your mind, body, and spirit.
Miss Melisa, what's going on?
Hi, Scott. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much. Melisa, there's too many initials at the end of your name for all your dieting stuff, but I will just give the brief intro. Melissa is the lead health expert at Vivoo, dieting wellness app. She's an experienced dietitian. When I put the notes, you guys will see MSRD. There's too many letters. She's showing off. I'm not going to show off. But let's start with nutrition, fitness, all that stuff. What is your general philosophy on nutrition, dieting? And then I'm going to ask some more personal questions as we go because I can't help myself. So.
Okay, sure. Well, again, thanks. It's great to be here, Scott. So I like to have a lot of initials because I'm passionate about my field and I really want to become the expert in my field by not only pursuing education and then, getting the credentials, but also really by learning with myself. So my general philosophy with nutrition, I guess, would be to have a little bit of everything, including not just, eating the rainbow and eating different food groups, but making sure that you have a balanced life. So a little bit of socializing, a little bit of entertainment, a little bit of academics, intellectualism, traveling. I really help my clients not only balance their diet, but balance their life.
That is exactly in my wheelhouse. I've learned to because usually it's like all or nothing with certain things, right? And even when you're doing the bro diet and you're doing chicken and rice, it's like, that's not even fun anyway, but you end up looking good. Like, what do you see as the biggest fault of some of your clients in that balancing act? Is it the intake of food? Is it, because for me, I know it's like when I'm social, that's always when I've run into an issue. What are some of the issues you see with your clients?
So I think a lot of individuals, when they're outside, it's really hard to control what they eat. Like, when you're socializing, you're probably outside and you're also with friends, you're distracted, you're not really mindful of what you're eating. I think the biggest mistake we, take as humans is we either listen to something we hear online about a certain diet, or we hear some athlete or some supermodel is trying something and then we mimic it ourselves, but we really forget that we really are our own nutritionists, our own doctors. We have the power to really get in contact with our body by experimenting and really getting in touch with how we feel after we digest, after we do different workouts. Like, I know you said you're very athletic and you work out a lot. Maybe you've experienced certain workouts are better for your body. Same thing with certain foods, certain sleeping patterns. So I would say the biggest mistake we do make is to just take generalized advice and keep on going and kind of killing it until the end, and then having some burnout and then getting angry at ourselves for not reacting according to the way we're supposed to react, but instead just accepting the way our body was created and our lifestyle and going along with it.
Exactly. And that's such a great answer, because that's how I feel about really everything, even the spiritual sense, the psychological. Like, you have to figure out what works best for you because we're all so different. Have you tried any of these wacky diets? I've dabbled in the keto. I've dabbled in, for me, it's like a normal balance of hitting my protein intake, 200 plus grams, whatever, because I'm trying to get a little bulky. But in general, have you tried all of these? Like, what would you say to the person who says, well, no, you have to do keto because that is what works and blah, 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 blah?
Yeah, I've tried pretty much everything because I said, if I'm a dietitian, I have to try it. Because even if I, for instance, don't really like keto so much, just my body doesn't really like fat that much, I still have to try it so that I can advise clients on how to create recipes, etc. I've tried all different types of diets, cultures. I also love experimenting with different foods. But for the majority of my life, I was a vegetarian just for ethical reasons. And then I went vegan for about 10 years in my 20s because I was an athlete and I was modeling. And then somehow, like, something happened in my 30s where I realized I wanted to completely eliminate any kind of belief or any kind of identity. I said, what happened if I wasn't born into this world from this family, from this culture, from this religion? And I tried to refine everything. So I eliminated all the vegan diets or any kind of identities I had associated with certain groups. And then I allowed myself to try things that I thought were scary to try at first, like fish and dairy and, meat products. And then I realized that I ended up becoming a vegetarian again. So I experienced everything and I allowed myself to kind of choose what I wanted in the end as well.
Gotcha. And how would you help like the standard client? 'Cause I feel like most people are coming to you to lose weight. Um,
Yes.
how would you help the standard client to start losing weight through proper dieting?
Yeah. So when I work with my clients, I work on a very individualized basis. And that's because I believe as humans, we're individuals. And especially a country like America, it's a very individualized based, society and community. We're all having our identity. Everyone has their own, their own initials, we have personalized earphones, AirPod cases. So everything individualized feels better. It feels more personal. So with diet, I do that as well. So I really get down to details. I'm like, what time do you wake up? Like when you wake up, how do you feel? What do you eat for breakfast? Who makes your breakfast? Where do you buy that from? How do you walk to work? How do you feel at work? Is there any at work that stresses you out? Where are you eating at work? What do you do? Where do you go to the gym? How long is the commute? I really kind of get to the details of their day because I want them to think about their life on a really critical, kind of skeptical way and see what they are doing that's leading them to not feel as healthy as they could be. And then adjusting their diet and lifestyle accordingly.
Mm. So you're kind of being a detective in a sense. You're getting all the data,
Yes.
you're collecting everything. Because I feel like that step, everybody in my family asked me the same thing. Like, how do I lose weight? I was like, okay, first step is getting the control group. We need to know what you're doing. And then
Yeah.
nobody wants to do it. And my sister, Sable, you're listening. You didn't send me she's sending me the calories every day now of what we're doing. And she's like, wow, I didn't realize I'm not eating enough. I was like, yeah, usually, you have to kind of figure that
Yeah.
out. So we laid down we have the data. From there, are you looking for certain key points in a person? Maybe too many carbs, maybe too many calories. Where are you starting as far as the numbering and the calories in, calories out goes?
So I think with the numbers, I really look at someone's BMI and BMR. So sorry, BMR, not BMI. BMI you can use as body mass index, but I prefer someone's BMR, which is your basal metabolic rate. And I use Mifflin St. Jeor. It's a calculation we were taught to use in my program and also in hospitals. And with this, it really just looks at your age and also your activity level. So, if you are someone active, you might think that everyone else is active, but a lot of individuals are not active. So I would look at how active they are at home, what their muscle mass is like, because your muscle mass will also really change how much calories you're burning in general.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll look at what they're eating. So if they're eating outside for the majority of their day, they're most likely eating a lot of salt and fat because that's usually added to food outside to make it taste better, and sugar, excuse me. And then I'll kind of look at what brands they're eating from. Let's say they're eating from a salad from Chopped, or they're getting a smoothie from Juice Press, etc. And then I'll make my own calculations. And then I will do a mock 3-day diet journal with them. So I'll really have them sit down, take a pen and paper and write down what they ate for 3 days, or they can use an app and log it in and send it to me.
Gotcha. Now, as far as salt, sugar, all these things, is salt good for you? What is your opinion?
So that's a great question. We actually have really good podcasts on the Vivoo app about salt, because salt is this really important mineral which has been demonized, kind of like the way fat was before. Fat is bad for you, etc. Same with salt, but salt is essential, and a lot of individuals are actually deficient in salt. And this is just because it's depleted from a lot of our soils. And there's different forms of salt. So I was saying, like, if you're eating outside, there might be a lot of salt in your food. But if you are cooking from home, or if you're eating a lot of fruits and vegetables and you're hydrating a lot, you actually might be deficient in sodium. So that's why with Vivoo, I think you tried our strip, Scott. We test for sodium, and that's actually like a big, like, whoa, mind-blowing effect for a lot of our clients.
Yes, and I did do a little cheat in there. I saw the Salt Essentials episode, and
Oh, cool.
Dr. James, what's his name?
Yes.
And because that was always something. I'm in the process of trying to become an adult and switch from no eating outside. So I'm used to, like, I'm going on a date, I'm doing this, I'm trying to cook inside, and I feel better. but I can't tell with the salt intake because I'm used to no salt. I don't put anything salt on my on anything because I was like, I'm a nut, but it just tastes better, and I feel better just on like a taste test
Yeah.
after a couple of days of having some salt intake. So I would think when we get my results back, I probably will be a little sodium deficient. So
That's awesome you say that, because I was the same, and I was educated in nutrition, right? Like I learned this, but again, what I was learned was part of the academy's curriculum. And even there, we always tell our clients to watch your salt, just because a lot of the population of the US eats takeout. They don't cook at home like you do. And they have there's a high percentage of cardiovascular rates, cardiovascular disease rates, and also diabetes. So we have to, in general, put salt recommendations on. But a lot of individuals who work out like you do, eat at home, we actually need to add salt to our food.
See, okay, and this
Yeah.
you have it in front of you. I have it over here. The Vivoo. Show them the little Vivoo urine
So
thing.
here is the Vivoo strip.
They were nice enough to send it to me. Walk me through the process here, Vivoo. What is it? It's the urine. It's the urine test, right?
Yeah. So this strip, when you rip it open, there is a strip inside of here. This packet, packed so it stays fresh. And then you would, not your first, when we first wake up, usually our bodies want us to urinate, and we recommend not to use your first urine because that's actually the most concentrated. Because what do we do when we sleep? While we're sleeping, our beautiful bodies are detoxifying and getting rid of a lot of harmful chemicals, or in general, it's just cleansing our organs. And there's a lot of byproducts, and that's what we excrete out with our urine and our feces, and also our sweat. So we recommend not to use the first urine because it can be concentrated and sometimes it can alter your results. But we recommend either the second or third urine to urinate on the strip. And then it's super simple. Just you wait a minute and a half, 90 seconds, and then you take a picture of it with your phone on the app, and the app immediately tells you, it says, "Hi, Scott, you got a overall wellness score of 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, woo." And then it shows you all the, it shows you all of our parameters. So we have 9. So we check your sodium, your magnesium, your calcium, your hydration, right? That's also a big one, your water intake, because we're drinking a ton of water. We really don't know how much of the water is getting absorbed, right? You could be like guzzling gallons, and you're still dehydrated. We also look at inflammation, so that's oxidative stress. We look at ketones. You mentioned ketogenic diet. We also look at your pH. pH is also really big because, we're always, you go into any kind of, Whole Foods or even Walmart, and there's like alkaline water. And, a lot of individuals are like, am I alkaline? Is this alkaline? Is this acidic? So we look at your pH, and we also check out your protein status. The protein status, that's our last one. It's not really how, I know that you said you're trying to bulk up. That's awesome. It's not really looking at how much protein intake you're having. It's looking at how your kidneys are functioning. So that one is actually looking at your kidney health. And that's a really big, really important parameter, because as you know, when you have a really high protein diet, eventually that can put a load on your kidneys. So it's good to monitor your kidney health, especially at a young age.
Through hydration too. That's very important.
Yes,
kind of go hand in hand.
yes.
What was the?
Yes.
There was something on it. All these, I think I'm gonna crush this, and I'm waiting. I'm doing a little detox because I was up in my house in the Poconos. There's a lot of wine and martinis drank this weekend, so those numbers will come up weird. I feel comfortable with all of this. What was there was the 9th one. It was, I think on the website it said like free radical. What was that?
That's great. So that's free radicals. That's your oxidative stress. So oxidative stress is, we hear a lot about antioxidants, right? So antioxidants are basically, they're found in food particles. We also create them naturally in our body, but it's good for us to eat them so that we can help take in more antioxidants to balance out the oxidative agents. So antioxidants, are going to be found in like vitamin C. We measure vitamin C. That's going to be like, our citrus fruits, kiwis, all fruits and vegetables have generally vitamin C, and they work to kind of scavenge and like look around for free radicals. And then the free radicals are going to be basically going around our body, and the antioxidants will go and try and neutralize them. And therefore our free radicals will not really damage our body. And a lot of research shows that the more antioxidants you have in your diet, it's great for tons of health outcomes, but it also lowers your risk of developing cancer and other diseases. And in general, a lot of having a high rate of antioxidants is also linked with a low rate of inflammation. And inflammation is a really popular word in the 21st century. Everyone's like, gotta stay away from inflammation. So, that's why it's really good to have a lot of antioxidants in your diet.
It seems like you got all of them here. I don't think we're missing. Is there one that you see people think that they have under control and it's always messed up? Maybe a magnesium or?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like I think it for me it was really sodium because I was avoiding salt all my life, and I work out every day. I drink a lot of water, but I was confused with. For me, it was like, and I think a lot of individuals don't realize that. Like we think that like you eat salty food, you have to drink water. It's true, you should do that. We don't realize that actually sometimes we need to add electrolytes to our water to absorb it. Salt is one of those minerals that helps you absorb it. So I always squeeze lemon in my water or I add some kind of fruit. So I would say salt is a big one. In addition with hydration and magnesium. You mentioned magnesium. Magnesium is super important if you are under stress, which I'm sure a lot of your listeners are, because I know that you have amazing podcasts and you work in New York City and you probably attract really vibrant personalities.
We
So
attract the stressed out people, believe me.
yeah. I mean, I'm always stressed out. So
Yeah.
I need to have a lot of antioxidants in my diet. And I also need to manage my magnesium. So magnesium is wonderful because it really helps to balance your body. It really helps to relax your muscles. So it's really important post-workout with stress. It helps your body relax prior to sleep. And it's also really good for migraines. If you ever feel like you're having tons of tension in your head, and it might either be that you're dehydrated or you're deficient in magnesium. Also for women, for premenstrual and for menstrual of their weeks of their cycle, it's really important to up their magnesium. Research shows that it really decreases all symptoms of PMS. So it's really good to monitor your magnesium status and be like, wow, I worked out a lot in the gym today. I did a leg day. My magnesium is lower. That means on gym days, I need to supplement. Instead of just supplementing every day, when you use Vivoo, you realize what days you actually need to supplement on, and it kind of connects you more to your body because you're like, oh, I worked out, I'm dehydrated, my magnesium is low. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, and this is one of my questions. We're going to get to supplementation, but I'm guessing depending how you do on the Vivoo, right? So we do this, we're taking this
Yeah.
test. First, when people order this, they're going to get how many? Are you supposed to be doing this, checking the real-time body data daily or weekly or monthly? Like,
That's a
what does
good
that look like?
question. So, I mean, ideally, it would be great to test it daily, especially if you're new to the app, just because our day-to-days change. Like you were in Poconos yesterday, today you're, working long hours. So your body will probably have been dehydrated yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And
yeah.
then which is good in some ways. You had fun and stuff. And then today, maybe it's a different result, right? Maybe you woke up early and you had like, a smoothie and then you went to the gym or something like that. I'm trying to improvise. But it's good to do it day to day for a while. So I always suggest like do it day to day for the first week or two if you can afford it. And then eventually you can do it every few days. And then if you feel like you have your health under control, you can do it weekly. So that's what we recommend.
So
Yeah.
we have the control data. Now we're taking this out of all of these magnesium, do you suggest, is there one in particular where we could supplement through pills, or should we really be trying to hit all of these in more of a natural, organic way?
Yeah, it's a great question. So Vivoo is really big on connecting you to your body and being independent of like weight on the scale, just really connecting your body and being holistic. And they do also extend that to diet. So we do have a partnership with Vitamin Lab. So we will make you customized vitamins according to your Vivoo results, but we always encourage food first. And the app, it will actually show you when you sign up on the app, it will say, okay, what's your age? What's your gender? How active are you? And what's your food preference? So if you are keto, it will then give you, and let's say you're low on magnesium, it will advise you to eat, pumpkin seeds, something that's appropriate for the ketogenic diet. So we always advise food first and also lifestyle. Like if you're very stressed, it will advise you to also do breathing and yoga. And then we would also recommend you to take supplements.
Gotcha. And I know this is a personalized approach with everybody trying to hit, we're going to have certain issues here with pH or ketones, whatever. But is there general outlines that everybody should stick to as far as what time they're eating, when they're eating, pre-workout meals, post-workout meals, supplementation, anything of that nature that's more general?
It's a good question. I feel like, I mean, I wish there was a general 100% answer, but there isn't. That's why dietitians are in business. But I mean, in general, I think the best thing to do would be to mimic the way our bodies were created back in the day when we were really in contact with nature. We woke up early with the sun. We went to bed with the sun. We were with a lot of people we loved. We touched, we kissed a lot. We had a lot of meaningful relationships. So not just tons of relationships, like I'm from New York, you can meet 50 people in a day, but how really close are you? So we had a lot of meaningful relationships with people. And we also sat down and ate our food in a really mindful way. And that's just because food was really scarce. So you were forced to be mindful. So a way we can do that today is to really sit down and, in this way, unfortunately, Americans are not very amazing, if I can be critical. But when I am more in Europe, my French or my Italian friends will really sit down and really savor every course of the meal and talk about it. And that actually helps with a lot of the digestion. You end up eating much less. I always thought I would eat so much more if I'm sitting at the table longer. You end up eating less because it's really good quality food. You're really mindful about how much you're eating. And you also relax, so your digestion is much better than when you're just like quickly eating something between, tasks. So that would be my advice.
Yeah. So I started trying to do this in the Poconos, and I'm getting made fun of, Maria, because we're Italian. We eat things as quickly as we possibly can, and it's not it's not good. It's not good.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. But hey, and now as far as the totality of you said a lot of good stuff, connection with people, weight, like it's not things I would expect for just a dietitian. It seems like you're looking at the overall wellness of a human being, because that connection piece is big with me as well.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Being Italian, you have a lot of, I'm sure you're very close with your family, which is why I love Italian people so much.
It's great, and it's not good because everything's centered around food. So like we get up to the Poconos. I thought I was getting a relaxing weekend up in the Poconos, and it's like, well, what are we having for breakfast? We're going to the Jubilee, the diner, and then we're having like it's like, for me being a health nut, I was like, guys, we got to eat to get to the gym, and I'm pulling people to get to the gym here. But when you're constantly going out, like how do you coach someone to get through, let's say, those out, the dining restaurant experiences? Particularly, I'm single over here. I got to go out for dinner with girls. What am I ordering? What do I do here? Because this is the same issue, everybody has.
Yeah. It's so I think, okay, so let's give two different situations. One is when you're with your family, right? And there's food everywhere. There's, food by the door when you enter. There's food when you're sitting down on your couch with your grandma having small talk. There's nuts, there's chips out, you throw a little in your mouth. Then there's food when you're sitting down. Afterwards, there's drinks and there's dessert. There's just food the whole day. And then there's another situation where you're out and about with, girls or with guys or with work buddies, etc. And then there's food in restaurants. So in the restaurant, obviously, there's not going to be as much food as when you're with your family. And it's going to be a different kind of connection. So, when we're with our family, going back to the first example, the reason why there's so much food probably in your family is because food is connected with love and also sharing and experiencing moments together. And a lot of our special days, like even our birthdays, are celebrated with a cake. When you get a new job, you bring your family out to dinner. A lot of celebratory events and a lot of happy events are connected. Even like weddings, you have a cake, right?
Yep.
Are connected with food. Halloween is candy. Christmas is like a bunch of different things. So it's a celebratory event, and we really confuse how much of it we should be eating at the events. So it's wonderful that your family is celebrating and connected. But the fact that everyone has so much food is not good because it will affect everyone's health eventually. Yeah. So it could be, and it's hard to be that person in the room because then everyone comments on you. It's the same in my family too. I'm a dietitian. My family's obsessed about food. We talk all day about food. We either making food or we're eating food. It's just all day about food. So I understand. So it's hard because people also will get insulted if you don't eat what they cook. So what I would say is always, if you keep your hands full It's like a little cheap tip. Even if it's just like drinking water, or you can help with preparing the food, or help with serving the plates, or help feeding children or the elderly. Instead of just always being a consumer, try and be a producer and be an active participant. And you can also then, if you're sitting down at a dinner table and people are serving you, just always ask for very little. And then if you ask for a second portion, they'll be very happy anyway. So I always try to plate your own food. And if possible, ask for very little when they're serving. Maybe just say that you're not as hungry, just because in general, people tend to serve quite a bit, So yeah.
Yeah. I started doing the, chewing longer, because it's just, I think they said
Oh,
you should be
really?
chewing like, I've read somewhere you should be chewing your food like 12 to 18 chomps or something. So I try to do that, and they're all getting mad at me, like, what are you taking so long to eat your food for? I'm like, guys, I want to, because I believe the data also shows that like you'll get fuller if the more the food sits. If you're just eating constantly, you'll be able to
Yeah.
tell. So I'm sitting there trying to tell them this, and they're just like, whatever. But no, that's all good. Now, from your perspective, you were born in New York, but you're very global. Like, how does the wellness or the wellness system of America, let's say in the Western society, compared to that of France, Italy, or Turkey or something like that? Because I feel like, that we are very individualized and very like in our ways in America.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, well, let's look at it like this. For example, if you were to go to Italy, completely changes, right? The north of Italy, the northern Italians are not going to be as generous and loving, as warm in general as the southern Italians, as people from Napoli, or so it's the same thing in America, right? We have our South and Northeast Coast people, very different vibes. And a lot of America is made up of really brave people who left their country with very little belongings and went to a far off place, either by boat or by plane, not knowing where they're going to see their family. And either they went with their spouse, or they went to go meet family, or some of them had no family there, right? So when they go to America, all of a sudden things that are really expensive in their own home countries is all of a sudden really cheap. So in Italy and in Turkey and in France and Europe, meat is very expensive. It's a luxury to eat meat. Butter is very expensive. Cheese is very expensive. But fruits and vegetables are so cheap. So a lot of our dishes, like the pots, will be about 80% vegetables or grains like pasta, and little bits of meat or fish in between. And it's a delicacy to have meat. Whereas in the US, it's different. So a lot of our grandparents who came to the US from home countries were like, wow, this is great. I can have so much meat. I want to feed my kids more. And the diet of America really changed, therefore, because it's very cheap to buy meat in America, and milk is very cheap. It's subsidized by the government. So whereas in Europe, because we have different livestock procedures for the animals, you can't confine so many animals into a certain area. So meat is therefore more expensive. And also it's a smaller hectare area, right? Like the size of Italy is very small compared to America. America's a huge continent. And let's not forget that a lot of the meat and dairy that we eat in America doesn't even come from America. It comes from South America, where we came and we made our own livestock farms because there was not enough surface area. And so I would say that's one big difference I noticed. I noticed that in America also, for instance, like in Turkey and in France, in Turkey you'll see it sometimes also because we're more capitalistic, but in most European countries, you don't see people walking around and eating ever. Even like a bottle, they might have a bottle of water, like health conscious woman, but you never see someone sipping a coffee and walking, eating an apple on a bench. People sit down and eat meals, and then they go on their work, and then they sit down and eat meals. And that's also because there are really long lunch hours. Like lunch hours are like an hour and a half, and people will really sit down and have lunch with their coworkers, and then they'll have dinner time. So it's a little bit more of a structured food system in general. Like everyone eats with their family in the night, pretty much. People don't eat different dinner times generally in households. That's something I've really observed.
And with because like we've discussed how we're gonna figure out what we need to eat. We're gonna use the app. We get to that point. Now the implementation of this, that's probably like the hardest part. All this is hard. Like now you have to get the person to do this. and now we'll turn to psychology. I know you study a little psychology, and that's my wheelhouse. But like getting a person to implement this system, how hard has that been for you as a dietitian? Because if you do all this work, I would just be mad at the person. Like, hey, asshole, you didn't. We did all this work. Why aren't you doing what you got to do?
I know I think unfortunately everyone, I could never be angry at someone because a lot of people are not consciously doing it to themselves, and they're probably really angry at themselves. Maybe they feel ashamed because of their weight. Maybe they are embarrassed. Maybe they want to look different. So I use an approach of love in general. And I think if you really loved yourself and you really wanted to live the best life, that you know, when you close your eyes, and whether your name is Kimberly or Scott is living, how would that be? And then I have them walk through that life, and what do they look like? And then I try and make them get to those steps. We have a lot of fear. So for instance, with one of my clients, she was very afraid of losing weight because she was afraid that she would be very attractive, and then her husband might be you know, jealous or feel threatened. And sometimes we can even, you know, sometimes mothers will fear fear losing weight because they don't want to compete with their daughters. It can also be like that with men. Sometimes you might have an identity as an overweight person all your life, and you're afraid to not be that person, because if you are slender or trim, what does that person do? Is it more expensive? Do they have to constantly diet? Is it too much effort? And then it gets overwhelming and they just completely close that option out. So a lot of it is psychology, and your podcast is amazing. You have a lot of psychology. So I would say that about 85% of it, or even more sometimes, is psychology, because the general population knows that they should be eating lettuce and apples and working out. You know, it's really us. We stop ourselves.
Oh,
So, yeah.
Melisa, you're such a good coach with your love. I would not take the approach of love. It would be more of a, and I guess that speaks to myself, how hard, because I think there's a way of doing it with caring and being really mindful, I think is the right word. If we're talking psychology, it's like just being aware of what you're putting in your body. And then when that instinct comes, where we all have our slip ups, when you have that slip up, being kind to yourself, but also how could I not make that slip up again next week or tomorrow or this or that? Because my family they all know how to lose weight. God bless you all. But then they put it back on. It's like this constant thing of back and forth. And it's like, if you can't be consistent with it, I think for me, really making it a lifestyle. And I'm like a sick person that I had fat. I used to be 280 pounds. So I was like a very overweight person. So the love, I just get more of a scared thing. I don't want to be the fat kid. It's probably not the right way to be, but keeping consistently, not letting yourself go back to that person that you were, for me is the biggest thing of like retroactive going. You don't want to go backwards.
It's wonderful that you're so honest and vulnerable, because a lot of your listeners are probably listening to this and being like, wow, maybe I have that identity too. Everyone has experienced gaining weight in their life in general. And the feeling of it's unfortunate. You feel ashamed unless you're very underweight. And it's very scary. And then it's also very scary to lose weight. It's great because you feel different, but then everyone is commenting on your weight. And you're like, oh my God, what if I gain it back? Everyone will notice, you know, and then you get so afraid, and then you do operate in fear. It's the same thing as if you were to, let's give an example, earn a bunch of money and then have a great apartment. And then you're afraid of losing your job, because then you're going to have to downscale your life. And then will your friends still like you? Will your girls still go out with you? So it is totally, you know, we do use a lot of fear to keep ourselves intact in a lot of ways. And sometimes it works, but it's not good to operate 100% on fear. Maybe we should only operating like 20% on fear, because we should really love ourselves at every weight. We should really, our friends should not care what we look like, how much money we have. You know, we shouldn't be Debbie Downers and depressing, because that wouldn't be good for our friendships. But we should also, you know, create a life where we feel like we deserve it at however we look. So yeah.
And I think that operating out of fear, it's something I've done both. I've operated out of love and out of fear, and I think you can get far when you work out of fear, but it's like almost you can't get as far as you would. It's not as persistent. It's not as just, I think for longevity purposes, you know, like, because when you're working out of fear, you can get
Yeah.
something done quick, but is it going to be able to do in a long-term sustaining manner? And I think that shift in the mind, it is part in America. There's a lot of people that want to operate on fear. They want to put you, you know, in this
Yeah,
fearful place. And
yeah,
it's
of
like,
course.
you know, especially with social media and this or that. And like, I think wanting
Yeah.
and having a goal for yourself too, like I want to lose weight. Well, you have to really make a describable, articulate goal of like, well, I want to lose X amount of weight in X amount of time. This way you have you have to shoot at something to be able to like aim at it almost.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's really tough. And like, so I worked a lot with emotional eaters and binge eaters, and it's really funny because we would always look at overweight individuals, and unfortunately, society says they're lazy and that they don't care about their health and that it's their problem and their fault. They're responsible. Where a lot of the time, these individuals are really aware that they're overweight. They do not like their bodies, and they can't stop eating because they feel so ashamed. And sometimes they can be at a healthy weight too, but they just engage in a lot of emotional eating. We all humans engage in emotional eating as part of our daily life. You know, something upsetting happens, you can eat like a chip by accident. It's just part of our reaction mechanism. It's to how much of an extent of it is controlling your life. If you're constantly, you know, emotionally eating, or if you feel like you are rushing home so that you can be alone to eat a box of chips, or you get some bad news and your immediate reaction is to eat chocolate, then it would be good to talk about it with someone, just because it's a coping mechanism similar to alcohol or drugs. Food is a drug in that way, it's pacifying. But a lot of individuals, we really do, you know, a lot of them would operate out of fear. They would feel so guilty that they emotionally ate and feel terrible, and then they would eat to comfort themselves. It's just like a terrible cycle. So the fear goes a certain way, but it also can backfire.
And yeah, and being mindful of like your relationship with food and like just
Yeah.
how you look at food. Like some people operate that out of fear, some people operate that out of love. Like, okay, yeah, I had something bad. If you're like, I know when I eat something bad, I do that exactly. I'm guilty. I'm like, oh, this is terrible. You don't even get
Yeah,
to
yeah, everyone
enjoy it.
does.
It's like, what's the point if
Yeah.
you're not gonna enjoy it? Then like
Yeah.
you're killing yourself with a double-edged sword there.
Yep. Really well said.
Oh my God. Melisa, thank you so much for joining us. And I will say that if you download the Vivoo app, and I think they did this first. So if you download the Vivoo app and you use the code Scott30,
Yes.
you will get 30% off. Am I accurate, Melisa?
Yes, you are. So
Woo!
it's a really good promotion code we're offering our users. So you can subscribe to Vivoo and you get 30% off. And you just have to use Scott's name, Scott30, and at checkout.
And just click the link. I'm going to put the link directly below to download the app. And then we'll put you guys see it all there underneath below. And then we'll put Melisa's links and all this good stuff. But Melisa, it was really just fun chatting with you. You seem like a fun person to hang out with, I'll be honest. So
Thank you. It was great to be here. Thank you, Scott.
of course. And causing the effect, guys, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. If you're listening, as always, just share this one with one of your friends. If you're looking for good diet tips, if you're looking for anything, hitting those 9 incremental pieces, and check out your urine on this thing. It's pretty fun. So I'm gonna let you guys know how I do next week, and maybe Melisa come back on and we'll digest we can break down all my issues. So I'm down with that.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
That'd be
let's
awesome.
do it. Sounds good. That's it, everybody. As always, stay safe, stay positive, stay blessed. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.